Hey, Ray Halbrook here from Livestream STL. We're here highlighting the 60th anniversary of the Moonlight Ramble. And before we get started here, I want to introduce a couple folks, a couple friends here. Cindy Mense on the top up here, and Tim Cornell, the coordinator here for the 60th anniversary Moonlight Ramble. Cindy, how are you?
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Ray. Thank you for having us on.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys being on today, and we just wanted to get some information on the Moonlight Ramble, and also Cindy's with Trailnet, who is partnering with this particular event. So we'll have some time with Cindy as well here. So let's get started here. Let's talk a little bit about the history and the evolution here, Tim. Why and how did the ride become a St. Louis tradition?
Sure. So the Moonlight Ramble is celebrating its 60th anniversary. The first year of the ride was 1964. And if you go all the way back to 1964, the ride started as a charity ride for Hosteling International. And a guy named Dick Leary was the first rider in the Moonlight Ramble. And we have newspaper clippings that go back that far. And depending on what you hear and who you talk to, Dick either rode by himself as a single
Mhm.
rider, or it was Dick and his wife and maybe a couple of others. But it was a very small group of people. They started at Union Station. They rode through the streets of St. Louis and they ended on the riverfront where the old cathedral is now. And they celebrated with coffee and cocoa and donuts. We don't know a whole lot about the route and where they rode, but that's the bones of it, and that's why they did it, and it grew and grew from there.
Absolutely. So how has the Moonlight Ramble evolved since its inception? While you're answering that question, we've got some photos that we'll throw in while you're talking about that.
Sure. So the Ramble, from its humble beginnings, grew into a ride that has been anywhere from about 4,000 people upwards to about 15 or 20,000 people. Registration in the 80s wasn't as easily tracked as it is now. We have a really fine registration platform. But the ride has certainly grown from those early days. And it really has evolved to include some of St. Louis' favorite landmarks. It started out as really an adventure ride to explore the landmarks of 1964, and it continues to be that in 2024, where we'll ride through the closed roads of St. Louis to make sure that we see the places that the people love.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So how do you determine the route for the bike ride?
Yeah, that's a great question. We take the survey results from the previous year to see what people liked and what people want to see. And so you always see the St. Louis Arch on the list. Union Station is frequently on the list. And most recently, City Park has been on the list as one of St. Louis's favorite new attractions. So we'll go through those, and then we try and find places that people might not know. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Midtown Alley. It's a wonderful, relatively new business district that will be our starting and ending point this year. It's right at Locust and Cardinal, and between Cardinal and Leffingwell on Locust there. But it has a tremendous restaurant scene and an art scene, and quite a bit of new media going on in that area. So we're really thrilled to highlight that area. It really ties into the history of the Ramble, the present of the Ramble, and in the future too.
Excellent, excellent. How many people are you expecting this year?
Since 2019, since been involved, we've had between 3 and 4,000 people ride the Moonlight Ramble, and we expect this year to be about the same. Registration has been very consistent, and so we're excited to see that many people. It's a great group, a very diverse group, and so yeah, 3 to 4,000 is what we're expecting.
And can you tell us more about the entertainment and street festival components that are happening on there?
Yeah, so we'll block off about 4 blocks of Locust Street in Midtown Alley, and we'll have live music, and we'll have food trucks, and we'll have beer from Urban Chestnut and Four Hands and a couple of other partners, and just really have a good time. We'll have 4 hours where the streets will be closed, and folks will walk around and celebrate the business district. They'll celebrate cycling, they'll celebrate Trailnet, and some of our other partners.
Excellent, excellent. Let's bring Cindy in and we'll talk to her a little bit about the connection between TrailNet and the Moonlight Ramble. Cindy, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. So how did Trailnet become Moonlight Ramble's charity partner?
Well, back in 2019, we started to develop a closer relationship and help with planning the route and bringing additional safety and promoting attendance because Trailnet, as a nonprofit, we produce bike rides in the region. So, and we're also the advocate for walking and biking. So we have a pretty good audience. And so what we did is we sort of leveraged our role in the community to help get drive more people to come and do the bike ride. And then the following year, we became the charity partner and benefactor in 2020.
How does the Moonlight Ramble support Trailnet and its initiatives? Okay.
Yeah, so we've developed a really close working relationship. So I help out with some of the logistics with the Trailnet Classic series, and then Trailnet obviously comes on board as the charity partner. So we support Trailnet financially, but we also try and share the mission that Trailnet um, espouses on a daily basis, and make sure that more and more people, especially the Moonlight Ramble riders, know what Trailnet is and what they do and all the great things that they're doing in St. Louis.
Excellent.
Yeah, and from our perspective, nothing illustrates our mission more than to have 4,000 people on bikes exploring the streets of St. Louis. Our mission is to make St. Louis a place where folks can, walk, bike, and use transit as a way of life. And so making the streets safer and then making it so that people feel safe, families to be out there riding and exploring the city. It really does mesh with our mission, and we're just glad to be able to have this opportunity on the Moonlight Ramble to reach so many people. We also have people coming from the outside that learn a little bit about Trailnet through their website and registration, and they're like, "Oh, great! Well, we'll support them." So we get a lot of donations directly from folks registering, as well as the agreement that we have with Tim.
Yep. And
Excellent.
and really the Moonlight Ramble is the only opportunity for cyclists to ride in downtown St. Louis on closed roads. If there's another one, then I don't know about it, but typically bike rides, organized bike rides, share the streets like cyclists would on a day-to-day basis. And so those are great. They introduce folks to the roads and the rules that they have to abide by whenever there are cars there. But we're really proud to be able to offer a closed road bike ride, so that folks who aren't as comfortable can come out and say, hey, this is what riding on the streets of St. Louis looks like.
Mhm.
And we love doing it. And it's something that we want to integrate into our daily lives.
Great, great. Let's talk about the volunteers because I'm sure volunteers play a huge part in this whole thing. How many volunteers are involved in organizing and running an event like this?
Yeah, so on a day-to-day basis, the staff is relatively small. There are about 8 of us that really have hands on the Moonlight Ramble, between the Moonlight Ramble staff and Trailnet. But when it comes to ride day, it really starts with packet pickup, and we have about 100 folks that help us between the packet pickup opportunities and on ride day. And they help out in a number of ways. So we have folks that are working the computers to check people in. We have folks that are handing out T-shirts, assigning bibs, handing out beer, handing out Fitz root beer, and then helping out as course monitors. So, all of those roles are extremely important in keeping people safe and keeping people happy. And it really is just a big party on bikes. So it takes a ton of people. We have folks that have been volunteering since well before I was involved. And we're so thankful that they continue to come out, continue to support, because we really couldn't do it without them.
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say there are the unofficial volunteers who are the neighborhoods who will put chairs out and lights and be celebrating and watching the riders go through their neighborhood. So I feel like those are the unofficial volunteers that
Yeah.
really make it so much fun.
Absolutely. We try and get in front of as many of the folks who are affected by the route, because we will close the roads for just a couple of hours. But it's always the most fun when we are able to ride through a neighborhood and they come out and they cheer, and just make the ride more fun. We can create a wonderful environment at the festival, but we really need the support of St. Louis neighborhoods to make it fun when the folks are out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you talk a lot about safety and we'll talk a little bit about this here. What are some of the biggest challenges, maybe safety wise, in such a large nighttime event? And what measures do you have to put in place to ensure rider safety?
Sure. So we work very closely with the city of St. Louis to make sure that number one, the route is well designed so that vehicles aren't overly impacted. One of the key aspects that we look at with the city and with MoDOT is to make sure that the roads that we do close, there are available detours to get around the route. From there, we work with a private security firm to employ about 100 off duty St. Louis police officers, security personnel, and St. Louis sheriffs to enforce the road closures. And there are also volunteers that help us out. And then we hire about 15 folks to go out and make sure that each mile of the route is closed. So each person is responsible for 1 mile of the route, and that might include an aid station or route signage, and barricades along the route. So those are the safety measures that we have in place to make sure that everybody stays safe.
Excellent, excellent. Can you tell us maybe who your main sponsors are this year for the and partnering for this year's event?
Yeah, we've been very blessed to have wonderful sponsors. So Great Rivers Greenway is back as a sponsor. MoDOT is back as a sponsor. Urban Chestnut has been our Finish Line beer sponsor for a number of years. They're back as well. But then we're also happy to welcome Four Hands. They're very involved with the neighborhood, and they've jumped on board as a sponsor as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Terrain Magazine. They're so Brad and his staff are very involved in the outdoor lifestyle in St. Louis, and the Moonlight Ramble is obviously that. And so those are just some of the partners. And then I've mentioned Midtown Alley, but this is our first year to start down there, and they've been incredibly welcoming. The business owners have come out in force, and we're really excited for a vibrant festival with a number of those folks out serving food and drink beforehand to make the Moonlight Ramble really special for its 60th anniversary.
Great, great. How do you engage? And I know we talked a little bit about this with Cindy, a little bit about the engagement along the path, the bike path that during the ride and whatnot. But how do you engage with local communities and neighborhoods along the route? How is that? How does that normally come about?
The easiest way is through social media. We go door to door to let everybody know that the route is coming by the week before the ride. But then we'll also jump on the local Facebook neighborhood groups to let them know.
Mhm.
Some people are a little upset that the road's going to be closed. They might have somewhere to go. They might be coming home from work, and we do our absolute best to make sure that they can get home. And then some folks are super excited to get out and support the ride. They've either ridden it before, they have family members that have ridden it. Most people, if you've been in St. Louis for a number of years, you've been impacted by the Moonlight Ramble in some way, in a positive way. You have a family member who's ridden, you have a friend who's ridden, or you've ridden it yourself. So they're excited, even if they're not riding, to come out and support, because it really is a sight to be seen, to see 3, 4, 5,000 people on bikes, many of them with the lights all over the place, with music going, families, friends going.
Great.
It's just fun to see. So we'll let them know that we're coming by so that they can enjoy with us.
Let's talk about charitable contributions because I know that this stuff isn't free. How are the funds raised for Trailnet used to improve walking and biking in St. Louis? And I'll let Cindy start with that.
Oh, well, thank you. So, well, those funds help us be present at meetings. So, one of the things that we've been doing is advocating for safe street improvements. And so, particularly in the city of St. Louis, they passed a board bill in 2023 that includes improving safety along hotspot intersections and some key streets. And so, we will try and we will promote getting residents to attend meetings, for instance, about improvements planned along Grand, along Kings Highway, and different hotspot intersections like on Chippewa. And so it's really important for people from the community to attend these meetings and tell city planners and MoDOT officials what their concerns are for safety. Because Trailnet could be there, but that's our job. But when community members are out there, it really enhances the way that those changes are highlighted to the officials. And so that's one way that we do it, and we continue to push. In fact, later today, the mayor of St. Louis is signing a complete streets policy, and that policy means that every time the city designs, builds, or maintains a new street, they will consider all users. And so people walking, people biking, people in cars. So it won't be so car centric. So it really helps us invest in the city, also in the county, but to every time there's an opportunity to make the streets safer, we want to get residents involved in getting their voice heard.
Excellent, excellent, great concept, and I'm glad that the city government is getting involved and being aware of what's going on out there on the streets. You know, not just for motorists, but for bikers as well. Um, let's talk about inclusivity and accessibility here, real quick. What steps are taken to ensure the event is inclusive and acceptable? We're talking like ages. We're talking about abilities, things like that. Uh, Tim, can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, of course. So the big thing that has come along in the last, I'll say 10 to 15 years is the use of e-bikes. And I think, early on, we were opposed to the use of e-bikes just because it was new and, we were concerned about safety primarily. But as you've seen e-bikes incorporated into everyday biking culture, you realize what an absolute benefit they are to an aging population in being able to complete something like the Moonlight Ramble or a Trailnet Classics ride. Um, it's just a huge, huge asset. As long as you're able to get on a bike and use it appropriately, you're welcome at the Moonlight Ramble. We allow class 1 and class 2 e-bikes. Those are the pedal assist bikes. They're limited to about 20 miles an hour. So about the same speed as somebody who's riding a normal bike. But those are the steps that we've taken. It took us a few years to get there, but I'm really glad that we did. And I'm really glad to see, if you've ridden an e-bike, you know what a great experience it is, to allow you to go further, or just to stay on a bike in general. So we want those folks to come in. The Moonlight Ramble started in 1964. We still have a few folks hanging around from the very early years. And I don't know that the Ramble would be possible without something like that. And so
Right.
we're so thankful that that option is there to keep them riding.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it went back that far. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. How do you see the Moonlight Ramble impacting the cycling infrastructure or culture in St. Louis?
That's a good question. There are very few events like the Moonlight Ramble where you have a mass of people that are 3, 4, 5,000 people strong, or 15 to 20,000 people strong, like in the 80s and 90s, to really showcase how strong the St. Louis cycling community is. So, it really puts our, what we believe in front of folks, kind of right before their eyes. So you see what St. Louis cycling culture is, you see how much fun it is. And, hopefully it raises awareness for the things that Cindy's talking about for complete streets, and just making that a more available option for folks who not only ride the Moonlight Ramble, but for folks who ride their bike every day. If you're around St. Louis in the coffee shops, the restaurants, you see folks riding their bikes in, and we want to make sure that the things that we're doing at the Moonlight Ramble promote that lifestyle and keep them safe day to day.
Yeah, yeah. Last question. This question is actually for both of you guys. So I'll
Okay.
start with Cindy on this one here. Are there any memorable moments and highlights from the past events you would like to share about?
Well, I think that a couple of years ago, I got to ride along with the safety and security. And so I wasn't able to ride my bike that year, but to be able to witness how this team pulls together the ride and is constantly getting feedback and all the coordination that goes into pulling off this ride. I got a front row seat to watch all of that happen, and it was really amazing. And I really appreciate the passion that Tim brings to this, because that, he just keeps wanting to make it better every year. And so hopefully I can secure a ride along again this year.
You're welcome to ride along anytime you want, Cindy. Um, I'll go back to the first Moonlight Ramble that I was involved in, and there are many people that have ridden this ride longer than I have been involved. But 2019 was the first Moonlight Ramble that I was a part of. And to see the love that folks had, to see the fun that people were having, was just amazing. I will never forget just how excited people were. The music, we had the Urge out that year. It was a great ride. And so 2019 was, the most memorable ride for me. Just because it was the first. And every year I feel like we continue to make improvements, both in the safety of the ride and the construction of the ride, and the application of Trailnet's values and missions and the way that we're able to integrate that. And hopefully 2024 reflects all of those things and is, maybe the best Moonlight Ramble yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we appreciate both of you being on today and just getting information on the Moonlight Ramble and information about Trailnet, them being together. And we just appreciate the time and good luck this season. And hopefully you're able to build upon that.
Thank you. Look
Thanks,
forward
Ray.
to seeing
Yeah.
everybody out there.
Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me on.
Cindy Mense from Trailnet and Tim Cornell from the Moonlight Ramble.